Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
Taoiseach, the independent audit of hip surgeries at Children's Health Ireland and the National Orthopaedic Hospital CAPA is damning. It makes for devastating reading for parents and families who are caught up in this scandal. One of those, a heartbroken mother, contacted us. Her daughter was just 4 when she had surgery on both hips. And this mother is convinced, based on her reading of the audit report, that her daughter didn't require either operation. Here's what she wrote. "I am gutted to have let my daughter down. I'm the person who's supposed to protect her. I'll have to live with that. After her operation, I'll never forget what she said to me. I didn't ask to come here, Mammy. She walked into that hospital but had to be carried out. Learn how to walk again, night after night for weeks, screaming and crying from muscle spasms. Thank God she's now back to herself, but I have no doubt that she will have those memories for life. And I have no words left, only tears." 2,200 letters have been sent to parents, and all of them now ask themselves the same question. Was my child put through the trauma of surgery that wasn't needed? Taoiseach, you had said that the response to this scandal would be to put the children affected and their parents first. But yet, families heard of the publication of the audit through the media. They weren't provided with a copy before it was published. Parents also report that they're being fobbed off by the hotline set up to deal with their queries. And last night, parents received their first communication from the hospitals since this audit was published. A very blunt, very insensitive letter inviting their child to an appointment and written in bold stating that only one parent can attend. Who do these people think they are, treating distressed parents like that? At a meeting on Sunday evening, parents expressed anger naturally and also deep concern about the independence of review and assessment processes from CHI. They ask, how can the very organisation that presided over this scandal have any involvement in any review? CHI is mired in scandal and catastrophic governance failure, unnecessary hip surgeries on children, unauthorised springs in children's spines, and we also hear a CHI consultant was delaying treatment and referring public patients to his own private clinic, being paid thousands through the National Treatment Purchase Fund. The failure of government to immediately establish and put beyond any doubt the absolute independence of all of the expert panel has led now to a real fear amongst parents that this will be largely in-house within CHI. And there's been no excuse for delay, Taoiseach. Your government have been aware of this scandal for an entire year. But your failure to prepare means that parents now face that cruel prospect of waiting months with stress and worry before they can find out if their child was operated on unnecessarily. Tish Mahori Fólca Cúpla Mí Fana Chun Fólamach Cura Lana Fui Obrád Gun Gá Sintura Cur Chuig Amal and Oireachtas. Taoiseach, the government now really needs to get its act together and do right by these families. So can you guarantee that every child who's had these hip surgeries since 2010 will have their case reviewed to determine if the operation was necessary? And crucially, can you assure parents that the expert panel will be entirely independent of CHI?
Taoiseach to respond.
Rud no, got an rud stocht here fad no, na lani agus afford na Oireachtas. Agus go háire na Tish Mahori agus é an príomhhaim an rialtas ná takeíocht agus cá a chóirt das na tailglaigh éagsúla agus táim anna bhórtha fad féin méid atá á héalú ag an tóras-cáil seo a dail siag míína se chatte. Could I just say at the outset that our overriding consideration will be the children upon whom these operations were carried out and the families. That is the #1 priority of government and indeed of the Minister for Health. The findings of the audit are shocking, very, very grave, and our first thoughts have to be with the children and the family. In terms of the communications, and make sure there shouldn't be a limit of one parent on any meeting, and in my view, parents, or at least a mother or a father, may require support at such a meeting. That should be readily facilitated. Would make the point, the audit was external. So I think it's unfair to put aspersions on the government's motivations, suggesting that somehow it would be an in-house. The audit was external, conducted by Simon Thomas, consulted to an orthopaedic surgeon at Bristol Royal Hospital for Children. And in the figures, 60% of procedures in Temple Street not clinically indicated in accordance with the criteria established by the author. In Kappa, 79% not clinically indicated. It's beyond comprehension, but we need to find out why and how did that happen. But the most immediate priority has to be the follow-up for the families. And the individualised letters have been sent out by CHI and by Kappa. And an expert reference group with international expert input is developing the criteria against which future multidisciplinary team assessments will be made, and that will be in place within the next 2 months. But in terms of the retrospective review, fundamentally, it has to be external, and a separate process involving external experts is being established for this purpose by the HSE. The Minister has asked the RCSI to assist in bringing together a multidisciplinary external team to examine all cases that were going back over the period of time in question, which allows for about a 15-year period in terms of skeletal maturity and so forth. The Minister for Health is expediting the establishment and engagement of external experts to review these cases, not just surgeons, radiographers, and other disciplines as well. The issues raised the most fundamental concerns about clinical performance itself, clinical governance, and yes, overall governance within CHI. Other matters that the Deputy referred to in respect of a report that was published in the Sunday Times. The Minister was notified of this I think Sunday afternoon, if I'm not, or Saturday afternoon, via media inquiry, had not been alerted to the existence of that internal inquiry report conducted by CHI. That too makes for shocking reading of the most profound kind, which not just goes to the heart of in my view, the misuse of NTPF funding, but more seriously raises very fundamental concerns at that time about safety for children receiving surgery.
Deputy McDonald.
So I think it is now abundantly clear for anyone who wishes to see that clinical governance in general at CHI is absolutely a fiasco. I know that 3 members of the board have resigned. I put it to you, Taoiseach, that the remaining members should follow suit, because clearly what is needed here now is root and branch reform and change, transparency and accountability. And the parents, I voiced these concerns around the independence of this reference group, the full independence of it from CHI, because that is the concern that parents are bringing to us. They have been catastrophically failed. Trust levels are on the floor. This involves perhaps unnecessary surgery on very, very young children, and every effort, if you're true to your word that parents and children come first, and the absolute independence needs to be given. Can you give us that assurance? Can you assure us also, Taoiseach, that every child who had surgery since 2010, that every single case will be independently investigated and reviewed?
The immediate priority is the clinical follow-up and care of patients who've undergone this surgery. And this does represent a very fundamental and serious breach of trust, the most fundamental breach of trust. And as I say, there will have to be further investigations in terms of why this occurred and how it was allowed to occur. And in terms of the retrospective look back, I've said it will have to be externally done, involving multidisciplinary teams to make sure that that independence and that confidence is in the process from day one. I will make the point, of course, that 98% of the procedures and surgeries within Crumlin were clinically indicated. And I would also make the point there are many very good, high-quality people working in CHI generally too. That should be acknowledged. But there are very basic issues of clinical governance, clinical leadership and clinical performance, and indeed overall governance of the hospital that are clearly raised and emerge from this situation.
Of the Labour.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.